technical issues. Yes, guys, I'm Si. It is Sunday night. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the breakdown. Let's just check where we are live. Yes, we seem to be. Let's go. It's the Welsh version of the breakdown this week. Again, apologies for my voice. It's a bit croaky and I got a bit of a bad chest and stuff. But there we go. Such is life. Welcome back to everyone. We'll just wait for a couple of the latecomers to arrive, all that good stuff. Please do give it a like, a share, all that good stuff. It helps us out so much that I can't state that enough. Word of mouth on the internet, of course, is what helps us grow. And yeah, but so what did we all think of last night's Wales performance versus Turkey? It's funny. So I watched the first half as it happened. And then I went out for a bit with my wife and I watched the second half later on. And I thought it was all right. I thought tactically set up pretty well in the first half, particularly. I thought, again, we had a plan. I didn't think certain players were as effective as they have been in previous games, which we'll kind of get to. But overall, I thought it was okay. And yeah, but then when I sort of had a few messages and texts and stuff this morning, some people were not happy, not impressed. Some people thought it was quite poor. Some people thought it was all right. But for me, like, I don't think you can understate how difficult a game Turkey away is. They're a very, very good team. It was a very different Turkish side to what we played in the first game in terms of the form they're in, bit of personnel, but also like tactically they were much more aware of kind of what to expect from us as well. And I don't know, I was surprised how much negative reaction I saw on social media, and some people have sort of said to me, but maybe that shows how high Craig Bellamy has set the standards very quickly in his tenure. You know, in terms of the opening first 4 or 5 games, he's the most successful Wales manager ever, if not ever, certainly, you know, in recent years, still unbeaten. And I think I saw a couple of people saying, apart from that first game against Turkey, we haven't put in a full performance, like a 90-minute performance. That I agree with. I think we certainly generally have faded in the second halves. I think you can be certainly disappointed with being 2-0 up and then drawing 2-2 in the Iceland game and the Montenegro game and things like these. You know, there was elements of that which I thought, you know, could be improved or be better. But ultimately, like, we're such a small nation. We have a lot of injuries to big players. Like, for me, Ethan Ampadu was one of the most vital players to our side, and he's out. I think that's a massive issue, because I don't think we have anyone of the same quality to bring in. I thought Josh Sheenan was excellent in his last game. I thought yesterday he did the dirty work really well, like the off the ball stuff. I thought he was really good again. In possession, not so much. And that's where that quality of an Ethan Ampadu is so beneficial, because he's so good off the ball. He's a leader despite his young age, but he looks after the ball. He's real good on the ball. He passes through the lines and stuff like that. You know, Kiefer Moore in away games, I think, is a big part of being able to play off and really, you know, get Harry Wilson into those pockets. But we did have opportunities as well. Like, it wasn't just we hung on for 90 minutes. Harry Wilson, dangerous again. Final ball from a couple of the others was not really probably good in those vital moments. But we said in the Cymru am Birth podcast on Thursday with Harry, right? We said we would absolutely snap your hand off for a draw. We got a draw. Now we have to go and beat Iceland at home. And generally speaking, I would expect us to win our home games against most teams. You know, I'm fairly confident that we'll see a more attacking version of Wales, a more dominant version in possession. I don't think it's realistic at this stage in Bellamy's tenure to go to Turkey in a hostile environment with a pretty young team, with players out, and dominate possession. I just don't think that's realistic. And I think anybody who thinks that we're going to do that with this set of players is kidding themselves, and it's gonna you're expecting something which is just not going to happen. Now, with a full strength side, with Bellamy having a bit more time with the squad and stuff, could that happen in the future? Maybe. He's clearly a very ambitious manager. He clearly wants to dominate possession, dominate games, create overloads. He wants to make Wales a team that implements their game onto the opponents. But at the moment, we're not quite there. He said it after, I think it was the second game, that this isn't the final version of his team. He's still building it. And it's even more difficult to build when you've got big players out. I thought Daniel James did okay off the bench. I think his pace will be a big asset, of course. I think he might start on Tuesday. I would expect a couple of changes Tuesday. Being honest, I kind of half expected us to go with a bit of a false nine. I didn't expect Mark Harris. Although Mark Harris was good in the previous game, I wasn't sure he was going to keep his place in the starting lineup. So I guess, maybe you give Craig Bellamy credit for sticking with Josh Sheenan, for sticking with Mark Harris. I thought David Brooks was a bit unlucky to not get a start, because I thought he was pretty good. I'd expect him to start on Tuesday. But we'll go through it. We'll have a look at each individual performance. But just a separate note, I thought Ben Davies was absolutely outstanding. What a performance. Excellent. And he seems to be getting better and better, which is good to see. I don't think it's all doom and gloom, me. I think a draw away to Turkey is a good result. And if we win Tuesday, we'll be in that playoff. And I think when that group came out at the start of the draw, when we found out the fixtures in the group and stuff, when that came out, second was the place we were looking at. Like, Turkey's a very good side. Iceland can be decent on their day. And it's by no means a walk in the park on Tuesday, but at home you'd expect us to push on. I think Pan's doing a preview for that, ready for tomorrow. So that'll be out tomorrow night. With the Cardiff City phone-ins also on tomorrow night. So we'll have 2 bits of content out tomorrow evening. But yeah, let me know what you thought, because I feel like it's a bit harsh to be critical of the side, considering the start we've had. But I'm not sure we deserve to win, but I didn't think we deserved to lose. So, and I thought that penalty would have been a real harsh way for Bellamy to lose his unbeaten run, and also a real harsh way for Wales to lose that football match. They didn't deserve it. I thought it was a real harsh penalty as well. Paul says, unlucky not to lose, unlucky not to win, but overall Turkey was difficult atmosphere. But I thought our passing was poor last night, and up front was questionable, but 0-0 was good. So I agree with all that, mate. I thought we were real sloppy in possession, actually, and our final ball at certain points was poor. Thought Sorba Thomas was a little bit poor in possession. Sheenan, I mentioned. I don't know what we need to do. I don't know how to get the best out of Brennan Johnson, in a Wales shirt. He doesn't seem to be able to replicate his form in a Wales shirt that he gets for Tottenham. Paul, I agree with you. Darlow was excellent as well. But in the upfront thing, like Mark Harris starts, been in decent form, although he's gone off the boil a little bit. More recently, started like a house on fire at the beginning of the season. What were the other options to play up front? Really, you had Ruben as a false nine, maybe. Kumas, it's a big ask for a young player. David Brooks as false nine, Liam Cullen. Like, they're all pretty. Like, Mark Harris is almost the only choice if he wanted an out-and-out striker. Could he have done that false nine thing, which works so well against them? I think they would have had a plan for that this time around. I half expected him to go with Harry Wilson as a bit of a like focal point, false ninety type thing, with like Brennan Johnson and Daniel James sort of either side running in behind. But he didn't go for that. Like, I get it. And it's an interesting one. Paul says injuries are a major problem for this young squad. They'll learn. Darla was very good. Bellamy still unbeaten. Yeah. If we can get Daniel James, when he first was at United, he was unplayable at times. We need him and pace, but he needs that form back. Yeah, he's been in real good form for Leeds. I wonder whether there's a bit of a hangover in a Welsh shirt from the penalty miss. He's only human at the end of the day. That was such a big moment. So you can kind of understand why there might be a bit of a hangover from that. But I thought the application showed by the Wales in defensive areas and defensive line was outstanding. I thought all of the back four were pretty good. I'm not Connor Roberts' biggest fan, to be honest with you. In fact, I probably would have gone with Norrington Davis if it was me, but look, I'm not a manager. And I think even Jay De Silva, like, I can see an argument for either. I could even see an argument for Ben Davis and putting Cabango in the middle. I'm not a massive fan of Connor Roberts, but I thought he did pretty well. I thought Roden was good, Nico was good. I thought the back four and Darla were our best players. I thought Jordan James, similar to Sheenan, pretty decent out of possession. In possession, maybe not as effective as he can be. But when you look at the players out, it is wild. You know, just from recent squads, you've got Wes Burns, Kiefer Moore, Nathan Broadhead, Owen Beck, and Ampadu. That's not including, you know, Aaron Ramsey, and a few others. So, yeah, it's a weird one. I was surprised at how many people were so critical. I was also surprised we didn't see Joe Allen, just to have a bit of experience in the middle in that second half, just to try and keep hold of the ball. We lost possession a lot, felt like. Certainly to the eye test. We'll have a look statistically at, you know, what, how many times we lost possession and how many times, you know, we gave the ball away and whatever. But we'll have a look now. If you have got any views or questions, get them in, of course, as always. If you prefer your podcast in audio form, I should say all the Cardiff City World podcasts and shows are available on the Sports Social Podcast Network, but you can get them on Apple, Spotify, basically everywhere you get your podcasts from. Just search Cardiff City World and they're all on there. The only content which doesn't go on there is the vlogs. Everything else goes on there. Even the shorter content of the 15, 20-minute videos, they go on there. History of Cardiff City, the lot with Terry Phillips and the previews, everything goes on there to download as a podcast. So you know, get stuck in, as it were. But yeah, I'm interested in everyone's views. I thought actually the lad who played on the right for Turkey, Akgun, was real good, real classy player, and I thought he was the best player on the pitch last night. Maybe alongside Ben Davis, I thought was real good. Yeah, he won some ground duels or aerial duels. He lost possession a little bit, but he's just good. Like, he just really got just on the ball and looked dangerous all the time. Created a big chance. At 32 out of 39 accurate passes, 65 touches in the game, and his heat map was right up that right hand side. And so Paul says there, what did I think of the goal which scored by James? So this is a real bugbear of mine, right? So he's offside by his arm. Can't score with his arm. And this is one of my real pet peeves with the way they do offsides at the moment. Yes, technically he's offside, but the only part of his body that's offside is a part he cannot use to score. But what people will say, and rightly so, is he can use his arm to balance himself, to get an arm across the defender. And if he's offside or if his arm's offside, he can get it across the defender. So I kind of get it, but it is frustrating when it's such a close decision. And, you know, Harry Wilson hits the post as well. We did have a couple of chances, and there was a couple where we kind of had some really good counterattacks. And then the final ball let us down. I thought Harry Wilson was good again. I thought actually he was let down a little bit in terms of quality by Brennan Johnson and Sorba Thomas, either side of him. But I thought Harry Wilson was really good. Harris worked hard, did all right in the first half, I thought, but faded. Incidentally, though, Mark Harris, I don't think he gave the ball away when I looked earlier. A couple of clearances, let me just double check that. Yeah, 100% accurate passes, 1 key pass, 2 out of 5 ground duels, no aerial duels out of 2, lost possession 4 times, right? So his passing was accurate, but he did get dispossessed. But in terms of passing the ball, and look, Turkey are an excellent team. Yes, they've got some experienced players in there, but they're a very, very good team. And that atmosphere shouldn't be ignored either. Like, really, when you look at it, we have got some experienced players on there, but we've got a lot of young players, you know. I want to talk about Ben Davies, marshaled the left-hand side of that defence, and man, excellent. 6 out of 7 ground duels won. Just real quality in everything he did. Communicating, blocked 3 shots, a couple of interceptions, 4 tackles. He just, to me, like 86% accurate passes, 50 out of 58. I just thought everything he did was excellent. He had 2 dribble attempts, both successful. Everything from his aerial work to his positioning, like the way he was anticipating, you know, where the ball would go, if one of his teammates was slightly out of position or anything like that. Just his anticipation was top drawer. And I thought it was just an excellent performance by Ben Davies. Obviously the captain, I'd imagine, I'm not sure if he's the most capped player but in the side, but he's certainly one of the older ones at 31. And to me, over this last sort of year or two, he's been one of Wales's best players by some distance, certainly in defensive point of view at least. And look, it was, in my opinion, it was an okay performance. Wasn't amazing, wasn't dreadful, it was okay. Nico Williams, okay. 7 out of 17 ground duels won, 2 out of 3 aerial duels, lost possession 13 times, but 88% accurate passes, 1 key pass, 3 out of 5 long balls successful. His crosses, accurate crosses, didn't find their mark. 3 out of 7 dribble attempts. So he was doing a lot of good things. A couple of tackles, got dribbled past 3 times, probably not ideal. Obviously, was penalised for the penalty, had 4 clearances. It was a pretty solid all-round performance from Nico Williams, I thought. Mentioned Connor Roberts. I thought positionally he was all right, pretty good. He did lose 4 out of 6. He lost 4 out of 6 ground duels and won 50% of his aerial duels. he was foul. He did pick up a couple of fouls, fouled 3 times, 50 touches, 1 out of 2 long balls successful. 88% of his passes were accurate. So, like, statistically, he did all right. He did all right. And as I said at the start, I thought he did all right. A couple of clearances. I thought he was pretty solid. I thought all the defence were pretty good. I thought Joe Rodon was pretty good. 8 clearances, 2 out of 3 ground duels. Really solid. And there was just the grit and the determination that defensive unit showed. That's what you need. You're going to play, you're a small nation, a young squad. There's going to be times where you've got to hold on a little bit, especially the way Craig Bellamy wants to play. He wants to be attacking. He wants to dominate possession. He wants to push teams back. He wants to play high up the pitch. So you're going to have to defend really well to do that, especially when you come up against bigger nations, bigger teams. So, yeah, I thought it was decent. Defenders for me, I'm not going to do a player ratings match for the video for this game, but all of the defenders get a minimum 7 out of 10 for me. All of them, minimum. Ben Davies probably gets an 8. Rodon a 7.5. Carl Darlow probably either a 7.5 or an 8, just off the top of my head. Let's have a look at Darlow's stats. Just very good to me. I thought he had a very, very good game. And it's a bit frustrating that when he was approached initially 10 years ago, could he have been Wales goalkeeper all that time? Don't know. Paul says, like I said, Si, we're learning and we'll improve, which is the plan. But we have to learn to hold the ball better and keep possession better, not give it away so freely. Yeah. And not just looking after the ball. Obviously, that was a massive issue. But also our final ball was quite poor last night. Whereas I thought previously we've done quite well with minimal chances because our final ball has been decent. And it wasn't last night. There was a couple of times Harry Wilson had made a good run and they didn't find him. And whether that's because I think Sorba Thomas has had a knock. So I don't know how much football he's played recently. But there's other options. Like I say again, Brennan Johnson is a superb footballer. And I actually think in a Wales shirt, he's more suited to playing as a number 9 in the system and the way we play with Wilson behind him. But playing off that right, there are other options to him and Sorba Thomas in, James and Kumas and Brooks. I think Brooks is quality. I get that he might not be up to playing 90 minutes at the moment, but I thought he was unlucky to be left out. But I also understand sticking with, being loyal to Sorba Thomas, to Josh Sheenan, to these guys, to Mark Harris as well. Let's have a look at Harry Wilson's stats for the game. 70% accurate passes, 1 out of 2 long balls, 1 shot on target, 1 shot off target, hit the woodwork once, 2 out of 5 ground duels, which is obviously not really his game. Couple of clearances, worked hard. When you look at his heat map, he was all over the place. When you look at his heat map, it's like a box-to-box midfielder rather than a number 10, which shows the work that he put in. Sorba Thomas, the same, in fairness, all up and down that left-hand side and then up and down the right-hand side when he later on. Sorba Thomas, 64% accurate passes. That's got to be improved on for me. Like, you got to look after the ball the way we play. Lost possession 10 times. Like, I don't mind a winger losing possession because generally speaking, they're the ones who are going to be direct and dribble at the fullback or at the wide players. But when you do pass it and when you do get possession, I need to see you look after the ball a bit more. Brennan Johnson looked after the ball a little bit better. He had 13 out of 15 accurate passes. He had 1 cross, which didn't find his mark, and 1 out of 2 long balls did find their mark. Two dribble attempts, none successful. 2 out of 5 ground duels, but he only lost possession at 8 times, and a couple of tackles and interceptions in there as well. Like I said, I thought he did okay. We just have to find a way to replicate how getting Brennan Johnson's club form in a Wales shirt. we just don't seem to be able to get it at the moment. Because he's a quality player and we need him, need him in the future. We need him now. So it'll be interesting to see how Craig Bellamy goes about getting that out of him. Because I do think Craig Bellamy's an intelligent guy. Tactically, he's so detail orientated, and I believe that he can get the best out of the majority of these players. I'm fascinated with what he's doing with Ruben Colwill, because I think he's been really harsh with Colwill since he's taken over. When you listen to him, how he's spoken about Colwill, he's been quite, not negative, but he's been quite straight up and honest and said he's got things to work on, he's got to do it consistently, blah, blah, blah. Like, there hasn't been a lot of praise in there. And I'm interested in that, because I think he's trying to needle him and push him and get the best out of it, because the boy's clearly got talent. It'll be disappointing if, after the Iceland game, if Ruben Colwell's got no minutes over this international break, because I think the form he's in and the injuries we've got, he should get some time. I also wouldn't mind seeing, I don't think it'll happen, I wouldn't mind seeing Colwill and as a false nine with Harry Wilson behind him and some pace in the wide areas. I think that could work quite nice. Paul says, I'd love Cardiff to go after Jordan James in January, seeing as he's not played much in France. He's been the perfect cover for us. Mate, Jordan James would start for us, 100%. I said we should have gone after him when he left Birmingham, but he was probably a bit expensive. We could get him on loan, play him and Alex Robertson alongside each other. Woof! That is a midfield. Jordan James, for someone so young, I think he's a phenomenal player. And I think the Welsh midfield of him and Ampadu is very, very exciting. Evan says, it's interesting to see that teams are prioritizing younger footballers every year. As good as Ramsey can be, I think he should focus on coaching for now, as you definitely need legs in these games. I think it was quite an indication when we played Turkey in the first game that Ramsey played as a false nine, because Bellamy wanted Harry Wilson in the 10, and he clearly didn't think Ramsey had the legs to play in that midfield. So it's interesting, isn't it? Let's have a look. Oh, Jonathan trying to sneak in a cheeky little Cardiff thing there. Says everything seems quiet about Rhys again since the visit to Malaysia. Is that something to be worried about? I'm going to do a short video tomorrow afternoon when I get back from the radio station and just talk about it a little bit, because I found out some stuff over the last couple of days, but I just want to check one or two things before I talk about it in the public domain. Jonathan also says, Bellamy gives Colwill stick but plays Cullen. It's a bit shambolic. Yeah, but like, there's different ways to get things out of players. And I just think, remember, he knows Ruben Colwill since Colwill was younger. He was working with him when Bellamy was working at Cardiff at the academy. He, excuse me, he knows him on a personal level. And I just wonder if sometimes people need a little bit of pushing. And you don't know what's being said in private as well. Like, he might say to him, look, you know what, I've said this to you in person and blah, blah, and then he's elaborating more on it. So these snippets in the media, isn't it? But yeah, I agree on Cullen. I thought Cullen did a good job. Okay job in that Wales game, not this most recent, the one at home. I thought he did a real good job, like in his pressing and off the ball stuff. It was quite important to the system and the way we played. But I thought on the ball he was quite poor, really, his decision making and the rest of it. But I can see some benefits to some of his play. Yeah, he'd be quality with Robson, mate. Yes, they did, mate. Well, they contacted me. I replied, and then they haven't got back to me yet. I'm sure they will, though, mate. It's Sunday, innit? But thank you for that. Yeah, we got loads of content coming out this week. Like, loads. Obviously, tomorrow night, we have the Cardiff City phone-in. We also have the Wales versus Iceland preview. Tuesday night will just be, because the Wales game is on, I'll put something out earlier in the day. I haven't decided what that's going to be yet. So I'll put it to you guys a little bit. Not saying I'll do what you say, but I'll put it to you guys. So basically, we've got Question of Cardiff City full game show. We've got a Joel Colwell scout report with a Cheltenham fan. And we've also got a Cardiff City development sort of update with Jamie Anderson and Martin. So we're just talking about all the development teams at Cardiff and what's going on with them and some of the players that are doing well and what we should be excited by. And Reindorf, of course, comes up. So, yeah, we've got those 3 bits already done. The game show's ready to go out and it's even uploaded to YouTube ready. The other 2 have got to be edited, but they're not super long. So it won't take a lot of editing and that. But, yeah, what would you like to see on Tuesday before the game? And Wednesday, Flower Hour. Thursday will then be another one of those bits of videos. But I'm also going to do that video, as I said, talking about Omar Rhys. Friday will be the City preview then, and then we'll be back into the championship and the bread and butter, as it were. Let's have a look. Jonathan says, Colwell's a ball carrier and we couldn't hold the ball in the opposition's half. I think Colwell would have done a lot better than Cullen. I don't know. I admit, I agree. I said in the Welsh pod with Harry on Thursday that I would have considered playing Colwell as a false 9 away at Turkey because of his unique stature and physical stature for a number 10. He's not your stereotypical number 10. He can hold the ball up. He's very skillful, very clever, got quick feet, but he can hold defenders off as well and bring others into play. But he can also run with the ball. If you can isolate him one-on-one with someone, he can beat him. So I felt like that was an option. I didn't think at any point that Bellamy was going to do that. And I said in the same podcast that I actually don't think he'll play a minute, which as a Cardiff fan is probably not the worst thing, gives him a bit of a break. But on his form, I think he's in better form than Mark Harris. You could argue he's in better form than Sorba Thomas, but whatever, it's different positions, I guess. I think he's better than Cullen. But yeah, look, Bellamy sees him. I mean, he knows him well. As Evan says there, one thing with Colwell is that he's always been highly rated in the youth team. Maybe behind closed doors, he needed a humbling a little bit as not to let his ego get the better of him, as it does most youth players or young players. Yeah, look, everything I've heard about Reuben Colwell is that he's a very, very, very down-to-earth, humble guy. But look, I know from my son, who's a good player, when you're young, like 15 up to 19, 20, when you're young and when you're one of the best players in your team or whatever, like, it's difficult not to have a bit of an ego. Not saying that is the case, I don't know. But Bellamy knows Reuben Colwell better than most coaches know players. He's worked with him as a kid. He would have worked with, spoken to him over these last few years as well. Paul says, I think with Colwell, Bellwell knows Colwell inside out, but we know Reuben needs to be a bit selfish and go for goal more when playing club football. But as the season now plays, we'll see more of Reuben. Yeah, I think so. He said he'll learn. O'Dowda played both games for Republic of Ireland. That's good news. Did Robinson get any game time? That's an interesting one, Gav. We'll come to that now. Colwell wasn't always highly rated. We were close to letting him go before his breakthrough. Interesting. So Gavin says, if we're using Liam Cullen as a Welsh forward, we need to seriously look again. Not saying this is a Cardiff fan. I just don't see a player there. So I agree. However, with the way that Bellamy wants to play, I think he wants hard-working, intense players in there who will press lots. And I think Cullen ticks that box. I agree with you. I don't think he's great. I think there's better options. And I think you could probably find better options who didn't make the squad. And that's not a Swansea Cardiff thing. That's just an opinion thing. However, from the squad we had, who did Cullen come on for? So Cullen came on for Sorba Thomas, 72 minutes. David Brooks come on just after for Jordan James and Lewis. So I would have brought Lewis Kumas on for Sorba Thomas for a start. So that's one player who's better for me. But we didn't have loads of options in the forward areas yesterday. The options on the bench was effectively Ruben Colwell, Kumas, Brooks, Cullen, James. James was obviously the first choice. Brooks, you'd think, would be the second choice. And then it's Cullen, Kumas, and Colwell. In my opinion, and I'm sure by the sounds of what some of you guys are saying, your opinion as well, Ruben would have been on before Cullen. However, in a game like that Turkey game, where at certain points in that second half we're clinging on a little bit, is it better to go for the person who can hold the ball up, maybe create a bit of magic out of nothing? Or is it better to go for the player who's going to do more defensive work, press, run up and down, get back in and help and the rest of it? So, like, it's tricky because I do, in this specific game, I kind of understand why you brought Cullen on and not Colwell, depending on how you look at it, because I think there's also an argument to have someone who can hold on to the ball and create a bit of magic. And yeah, it's an interesting one. But I agree with you, Gavin, 100%. Paul says, it's Ruben's first real season from his breakthrough till the start of the season. He more or less has been a bit part player, but as I say, going forward for a full season game will do him wonders. Yeah, I thought from January to the end of last season, I thought he was like Cardiff's best player without being like outstanding. Whereas this year, from the moment he started starting every week and they've made it, he's the number 10. I don't think he's dropped a game under 7 out of 10 for me. I can't think of one off the top of my head. The West Brom game, he was okay, but he was still decent. Like 6.5, 7 out of 10. So I think he's been consistent and he's been real good. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point. He says, we were hoping to pinch a goal and Swansea have just gone 9 hours without a goal, playing mostly with Cullen. So, yeah, that's an element which you've got to consider, isn't it? He is a striker. Look, he works hard. I'm not saying he's like absolute dog shit. But I don't think he's going to create something out of nothing too often. He works really hard. He presses really hard. Does the simple things well most of the time. For me, yeah, if I'm a coach or I'm a manager or I'm an analyst, I'm going to consider all elements of every player. And one element of Cullen is that he's played in a side which went 9 hours without scoring a goal, and he's the striker. So you have to do that. Jonathan says Ruben has done a lot of work on his closing down, holding the ball and bringing others into play. Yeah, I think it's holding up the ball, bringing others into play. That's always been relatively good. I think it was more his decision making of when to release it and when to keep it for himself and when to dribble and when to play someone in, maybe holding it a bit too long or trying something a bit fancy or whatever. I think that's changed massively this year. But yeah, he's definitely worked on his pressing and stuff. But I've said this a lot, and some people will disagree. I don't really want my number 10 coming all the way back. Yes, press, being the trigger point, and if a heavy touch, things like this, yes, press. I don't want to see the number 10 like back on the edge of the box. Really, that's just me though, because they're the ones who create everything, knit everything together, and will create that killer pass out of nothing. Paul says Ruben will be big clubs will be sniffing around Ruben soon, if not already. Yeah, there's already a couple mid, but certainly at the end of this season, I expect we might actually get a bid or two. Jonathan, Sparky's more prolific than Cullen. Well, I mean, Mark Harris started the season like a house on fire, but he has faded a little bit, which you'd expect for a fairly young chap. So look, is Mark Harris's stats for the season. Like, I feel like he started really well and then he kind of faded. But he's another one, right? For the last 12 months, his average rating out of 10 is 6.87. So he's around that sort of, in League One, his average is exactly 7. So, he's been very, very consistent. So what I wanted to look at, just see if I can quickly bring him up. I might not be able to. Yeah, I can't find them, and I don't want to spend too much time looking. Wanted to just see like his stats for this season and see how long he's gone without a goal and what not. We'll have a look in a minute. But Paul, you're spot on there. Paul says next 10 years looks so exciting for Welsh football with all the young players coming through. Yeah, the wealth of talent coming through the Welsh ranks at the moment is almost scary exciting, because we've talked a lot recently about the crop of players coming through at Cardiff, but you've got Zach Giggs at Sheffield United, you've got Charlie Crew, you've got Charlie Savage, who are on like the brink of the Welsh club, you've got Owen Beck. Then you look at that number 19, so I think there was 5 Cardiff players in the Wales under-19s. But what a great performance by the under-19s against the favourites in the group. I thought that was really good. Something like just the wealth of talent coming through the 19s and 23s is exciting, to say the least. So look at that, Wales under 19s. Yeah, unfortunately, they did end up losing, didn't they, to the French? But like that French team, you don't expect really to go and Wales to go and beat a French team out, in France, but you've got like Bostock, Hughes, Biancheri. There's so much talent in the Wales ranks at the moment. It's really exciting. And I expect some of these will be in the first team not too long. Ronan Kepakio, Cody Hughes, Mafiko, Louis Giles, Daniel Cox, Dylan Lawler. Dylan Lawler came up a lot in the development show we talked about. Cruz Allen. I think I said Oliver Bostock. Biancheri is tearing it up at United in their under 18s. You've also got younger again. You've got Ernie's son. I forget his name. Silver, I think it is. But he's he's a player and a half. It'd be interesting to see how he develops. He's very young, I think, but there's a hell of a lot of talent, and there's talent which wasn't included in this current 19 squad, and there's talent like we had Zach Giggs on the bench, who was man of the match in the previous game. So, Chris Gunter's had a good start to the 19s, 2 games, won the first one, and then a good performance versus France after going 1-0 up. So yeah, it's exciting times for Wales. I got to say, like the the quality of players going through, and we haven't even talked about the 23s. We're talking about the youngest age group. We're talking like the younger ones again. Look at the 23s, and there's some talent in there as well. You've got Joel Colwell. We've got a video, as I said, we've got that. Excuse me, my chest is played up big time. I think the problem for Biancheri will be, and I think Biancheri might end up going out on loan next year, which might be something for Cardiff to keep an eye on, is United signed that Obi Martin, who's only 16, so you think, well, he's a bit younger, but he's like 6'4", scored like something stupid like 90 goals or something last year, and he then scored a hat-trick at his first 14 minutes of the under-18s, and then he's now playing in the 23s, so he'll probably be in the first team before Biancheri, I think. He's certainly got the build for it and the scoring record. So maybe Biancheri ends up having to go out on loan or something, but just trying to bring up the 23s squad. My computer's being slow, so look what you're saying. Yeah, a lot of Cardiff players in that under 19s, which is always good to see. Jonathan says that Biancheri might need to find a new club. I think he'll go on loan next year, mate. Paul says few Welsh lads too. Cardiff academies now with United City and United. Yeah, there's. I actually view. I know people get really annoyed with like the Category 1 or A clubs coming in and pinching the really talented lads like before they're 16. I kind of view it differently, and I just think like really you've just got to look at it that you're doing something right if they're pinching your players at that young age, and unfortunately there's not much you can do about it. 21. But this, like Louis Giles, is someone who I think is going to go on and be a serious player, and for me, he's one of the reasons I want Wales. I want Cardiff to give him playing time. Is I don't want to end up losing a player because we haven't given him a chance, and that's my worry with a couple of these. I understand they're young, but I think there's also been opportunities, shall we say, where we could have played them, given them some minutes. But Louis Giles is a player I'm really excited by. I think he's been really good, like, you know. It'd be interesting. Obviously, I spoke to a Cheltenham fan about Joel Colwell yesterday or Friday. Recorded it, and they're really excited by him. Really, really excited by him. So that's really good for us that he's not just gone on loan, but he's playing week in, week out. He's a big part of their team. Played in a kind of number 10. He played in like a box midfield yesterday against MK Dons as one of 2 10s. So he's clearly quite flexible as well. Owen Beck is a left back, currently at Blackburn. He's what a player he is, like. And that admin error, Jesus, that cost him, didn't it? So disappointing. Oh, it's Brian Barry Murphy things bugging me at the moment. So there we go. You got like Charlie Krug, Tom Davis, Eli King. There's so many different players who are coming through. Like, obviously, they're not all going to come through and play first-team football. It's just a fact of life, isn't it? But the majority of them look talented enough that they're going to have a career in football and do quite well. On Eli King, from Wales's under 21s, Cardiff player. Does anyone know how many games he's been playing for Stevenage by any chance? Looks like he's made 10 appearances for Stevenage this season. Got 1 yellow card. Played predominantly as a defensive midfielder. That's good. So, yeah, these players are playing on their loans. Not sure how much Raheem Conte's played. Yeah, right. So Robert says there, can't believe Bellas wouldn't roll the dice and chuck Ruben on. I think, I don't know if you heard just then, Robert, but I kind of said, someone had asked, I think it was Gavin asked the question, why are we picking Cullen before Colwell? I think in that specific game situation, I think Bellamy went with Cullen because he's that more defensive aspect. Like he presses a bit more, works a bit more off the ball. For me, I think the way Ruben holds the ball up and is able to bring others in, that's what we needed. We couldn't keep hold of the ball to take the pressure off us, take the pressure off the defence by keeping hold of it. And he can also do something out of nothing. He can also create out of nothing. And if you can isolate him on the break, one-on-one, you'll beat him on. So I do agree with you. That's the only thing I can think with Cullen because he's never done much that's impressed me, really. But I do admire his application to his tactical instructions and stuff like that. Jonathan says, never write him off making the first team. Josh Sheenan took time to say, yeah, it takes time, mate. Some players, I mean, look at that. Gyökeres, who played for Coventry. Like, in the last 2 seasons, he's been on absolute fire for Sporting Lisbon. We'll probably end up getting a big move at the end of this year, whether it be to United or with the manager or with someone else. But, like, he was a late bloomer. Did all right at Coventry. But, even then, I think he was 23 when he was at Coventry. You know, players take time and different players need different things and it takes different elements, things to fall in place. And I mean, we've talked about a lot on the channel about sometimes it's a player or a manager or a coach just being in the right place, the right club, the right city, and it all coming together. Sometimes a player can go somewhere or a manager can go somewhere and everything looks on paper like it's right. And it just doesn't work. Might be something off the field. They might not like where they live, whatever it may be. There's lots of different elements to it. But then you go somewhere else and suddenly they look like a whole different level of player because it's the right thing. But that's an interesting point, mate. Robert says, true, Si, but Matt Busby wouldn't have left George Best on the bench in favour of defensive midfielder. And I think Bellamy's great, by the way. Yeah, so, no, look, I agree with you, mate. I do. But I'm just telling you why I think he goes for Cullen. Because I think the way that he wants to, and I think this is actually one of the issues that Craig's got at the moment, is we're not able to sustain our first half levels into the second half. Because the way we play under Craig Bellamy requires such high intensity and a high level of pressing and work rate from all the players that they tire in the second half. We're fading a little bit. And I think that needs to be addressed. And I think you address that by bringing in maybe some younger players in the squad and around the squad for that extra legs off the bench or intensity. I was a little bit disappointed Charlie Crew wasn't on the bench. I know he's young, but he is someone who looks after the football so well. And what did we lack or what were we struggling with was someone that... Yeah, Alex, I agree with that, mate. He says, good game, just wasn't good enough in the final third. Yeah, I thought our final ball was poor, mate. I thought Sorba Thomas, in particular, his final ball was poor. A few times, Harry Wilson made really good runs and the ball to him was just poor. And it's a shame. But then I also thought Sheenan and Jordan James did an excellent job defensively and getting, the dirty work, stuff off the ball. I thought they did that excellently. But then when they did get on the ball, I thought they were a bit sloppy with it. Generally, that hasn't been an issue, though, for Wales since Bellamy's taken over. So it might have been the atmosphere, might be maybe a couple of players haven't played a lot of football in recent weeks, a bit rusty. I think he'll change it up. And actually, one of the things I've quite liked about since Craig's taken over is you don't quite know what he's going to do. He's going to have a plan for each game, and he'll make like little tweaks to each game. So, I expect us to try and dominate possession on Tuesday. I expect us to press really high. I expect us to try and enforce our game plan onto Iceland as the home team. I'd be very surprised if we sat in and tried to hit him on the break. So it'll be interesting which personnel he goes with, because I'm not sure that Sheenan's the guy for that. Maybe like he did all right in the last home game, but maybe he is, and maybe we've got a lack of options. Do you put a Charlie Savage or a Charlie Crew in there? Because I think they both look after the ball really well. And I think one of them two with Jordan James could be quite nice. I do think we need goals. We need, especially at home, we're not quite as clinical as we have been away from home under Bellamy. Let's have a look at this. Right. Let's have a look at this Wales squad. And then let's just to finish off, let's have a look at sort of side that we might pick against Iceland. It was never a penalty. Never a penalty. Absolutely not. I'd expect Darlow to keep his play. It'd be harsh, wouldn't it, if Darlow's not the keeper on Tuesday, because Darlow was excellent. But on the other side of that, he does or has been rotating. He has been rotating the keepers. So if he keeps with that, then maybe we see Danny Ward. I don't know. It's certainly an interesting one, isn't it? Because I'm sure Danny Ward would like to play. Yeah, it would have been harsh, wouldn't it, if Turkey had won that game via a penalty? It would have been really, really harsh, in fairness. Just seeing if BBC have got a predictor. But I would actually, for the Iceland game, because I think you can get Iceland in the wide areas, I'd go with the 3-4-2-1 type thing. So I would probably go with Darlow, and then I'd go with Ben Davies on the left-hand side, Roden, and probably Kabanga. I'd have Nico Williams as one wing back. Then I probably would I'd probably go with Sorba Thomas just for the attacking option. As your two wing backs, with three, and the two wing backs, I'd go Jordan James. If I was being really adventurous, I'd go Jordan James and Charlie Crew. I don't think that will happen, though. I expect it'll be Jordan James and Sheenan. And then I would go with Harry Wilson and Ruben Colwell behind. Actually, no, I wouldn't. That's two. I would go Harry Wilson and David Brooks behind probably Brennan Johnson. And I would try and get Nico Williams and Sorba Thomas high up the pitch and wide. You could even go with Daniel James as the one wing back because of his pace. But I like Daniel James off the bench at the moment. Brennan Johnson's pacey. And then having Brooks and Harry Wilson just behind, I think would be real nice. That's where I would go. But I've done that off the top of my head. I might have left players out and stuff. So, but I do think he needs to be adventurous I think if we get Iceland, the atmosphere and everything, if we get Iceland early, I believe that we can get at them, and I believe we can win. We We should have beaten them in the away leg. Home, I would back us at home. I really think that we just need to be clinic, take our chances. We just haven't taken our chances at home at all. But I've been really impressed tactically with Craig Bellamy. You know, I said this a few times when I spoke with him, you know, for that 2 and a bit hours. The tactics was my favourite bit about it, talking about the way he views tactics. And he's so detail orientated and he speaks so well. And in my opinion, what he did is he talked the talk and then he went into he'd already got the job at that point, but then he walked the walk. And I think tactically he's been really good. We just need to find a way to address the finishing at home, taking our chances at home. We need to address the second half kind of fading and as an overall performance. And then, like yesterday, an issue is the final ball and just looking after the ball a bit better. Just to finish off, I'm going to go through some of the comments. Jonathan says, I hope Bellamy's experience with Cardiff and the way he left basically is not going to affect. It's nothing to do with the players, is it? It's nothing to do with that. I'd be very surprised. Only way I see Darlow being dropped after that performance is if Ward finally leaves and plays regularly somewhere. Darlow stays on. Yeah, I mean, but he's done that, hasn't he? Like every break, he's just given him a game each. And the reason I think he might put Danny Ward in is Danny Ward is definitely better with his feet. In fact, he's been excellent with his feet since Bellamy took over. And I think at home, where we're going to be looking to implement our style and be more dominant in possession, having a keeper pushed right up with the centre backs or behind the centre backs is going to work. So yeah, I can see that. Should ask Leeds for a straight swap Darlow for Howard. Yeah, just got to find a way to win against Leeds. Paul says Bellas and his coaches can't fault the tactics spot on. We just need to improve the final ball. Yeah, we just got to look after the ball a bit better. Alex says, I have football after school on Tuesday, so I can only play the first half. Well, best of luck, mate. And make sure that you score some goals, isn't it? You know, that's the aim of the game. Got to score them goals. Guys, I appreciate you all, as always. Appreciate the comments. Make sure you spread the word. Share it with your friends. Cardiff City content 7 days a week. Bit of Welsh content chucked in there in the international breaks. We have the Wales preview tomorrow night, as well as the Cardiff City phone-in. Then Thursday, we have the Cymru and Birth podcast. Tuesday, what do you want to see on Tuesday before the game? Do you want to see a question at Cardiff City quiz show? Do you want to see the Joel Colwell scout report? Or do you want to see the development teams update from Cardiff? I'll give you 10 seconds to say which one you'd rather. You're blessed. Which one would you rather out of the three? Oh, development. JT's not a fan of Bellamy. Evan says development. Jonathan says Joel Colway. Robert says love your shirt. And Alex says a pre-match show. I can't do a pre-match show because I'm going to the game. If you do see me at the game, come say hello. Always happy to have a chat about football. In a bit.